The alien king offered him riches. He pointed at the girl chained for 100 years and said, "Her." The air shimmered blue and gold as the portal spat him out. Kieran stumbled forward, gasping, boots crunching on a marble floor that pulsed faintly with light. Around him stretched an alien throne room, columns carved from glowing stone, floating orbs of silver flame hovering like stars, and a ceiling so high it faded into darkness. At the center sat the alien king, a towering figure with skin like molten bronze and eyes that rippled with galaxies. He leaned forward, his voice deep and resonant, each syllable vibrating through the air. "Human traveler, you crossed dimensions uninvited. Yet the portal obeyed you. Tell me, why are you here?" Kieran wiped the blood from his temple, still dizzy from the crossing. I didn't mean to. My ship crashed near a rift. Pulled me through. I just want to go home." The king rose. Even standing still, he radiated power, an aura that made Kieran's bones hum. "Few arrive by accident. Fewer survive. Perhaps the fates favor you." He raised a hand, and suddenly the walls of the chamber opened like an iris, revealing treasure beyond imagining. Mountains of crystals that glowed with inner fire, rivers of liquid gold, artifacts that bent light itself. "Riches," the king said. "Knowledge. A ship that sails through stars. Take your reward for surviving the rift. Anything within these walls is yours." Kieran's breath caught. He'd been a scavenger his whole life, scraping parts off dead ships, living off whatever he could trade. Here he could claim more wealth than humanity had ever seen. But as he turned to speak, something shifted at the edge of his vision. Figure. Motionless. At the far end of the hall, half hidden behind a curtain of shimmering energy, stood a girl. Her wrists were bound in silver chains that ran deep into the floor, pulsing faintly with the same light that powered the palace. Her head was bowed, white hair cascading over her shoulders. She wasn't human, but close. Her skin glowed faintly blue, eyes closed as if in sleep. "Who's that?" Kieran asked. The king's expression darkened, galaxies swirling in his eyes. "That is not a prize you can claim. She is the bound one, the warden of the rift. She betrayed her own kind and was imprisoned 100 years ago. Her chains maintain the balance between worlds." Kieran stepped closer. The girl's fingers twitched, barely perceptible. "She's alive. She exists," the king said coldly. "And she must remain so bound here. Without her the rift collapses. Your world and mine will tear apart." Kieran looked again at the mountain of treasure, then back to the girl. Her breathing was shallow. She looked fragile, suffering. He swallowed hard. "You said I could choose anything." The king's eyes narrowed. "Anything else. Choose riches or power or the key to immortality. Not her." Kieran hesitated, torn between awe and fury. He'd seen cruelty before, in warlords, in pirates, in the cold expanse of space, but this was worse. The girl hadn't even lifted her head, yet something about her presence pulled at him, like a whisper echoing across lifetimes. He took a step forward. "Then I choose her." The king froze. The chamber fell silent. Even the floating orbs dimmed. "You defy me." Kieran's voice trembled, but he didn't back down. "If she's alive, she deserves freedom. You said the rift will collapse, but maybe it's time it did. Maybe it's time someone ended your chains." The king raised his hand, power flaring like a miniature sun. "You do not understand what you ask. She was the queen of shadows, the one who opened the first rift. Her freedom would mean ruin." The girl stirred then. Her voice was soft like wind over water. "He speaks truth, my king. The ruin began long ago. You only prolonged it. Her eyes opened, luminous, filled with galaxies of their own. The chains glowed brighter, reacting to her awakening. The king took a step back, for the first time uncertain. "Stay silent, traitor." But the girl smiled faintly. 100 years of silence is enough. Kieran moved quickly, heart pounding. He reached the dais and gripped one of the glowing chains. It burned his hands, but he didn't let go. "How do I free you?" She looked at him with something that might have been gratitude or sorrow. "By choosing me." "Truly." He blinked. "I already did." The chains cracked like thunder. Light poured from the breaks, flooding the chamber. The air trembled, reality itself bending. The king roared, voice shaking the heavens. "You fool! You've doomed both worlds." Kieran shielded his face as the light intensified. Through the brilliance, he saw the girl rise. No longer fragile but radiant, her hair streaming like liquid moonlight. She reached for his hand. "Hold on to me." He did. The palace shattered around them. The floor fell away, and suddenly they were standing in a vast void, stars swirling in patterns older than time. The king's voice echoed faintly, fading into the distance. "The rift cannot hold." When the light dimmed, they stood on a barren hill under a crimson sky. The ruins of the alien palace lay behind them, crumbling, fading like dust. Kieran sank to his knees, chest heaving. Did we survive?" The girl looked around, her chains gone, her eyes calm. "You did more than survive. You ended a cycle that should have ended long ago." He stared at her, still trying to comprehend what he'd done. "So what now? The rift's gone. The king's gone. What happens to us?" She smiled softly, sunlight glinting off her pale skin. "Now we begin again. Together, if you wish." Kieran let out a long breath. "I didn't want riches anyway." She laughed, light, almost human, and for the first time in a century, the air of a dying world felt alive again. And far beyond them, in the emptiness where the rift once burned, 2 new stars were born. The palace shattered around them in a storm of light and sound. Kieran felt the floor vanish beneath his feet as the girl's hand tightened around his. They were pulled through the collapsing rift, through time, through memory, until all that was left was light. When the brilliance faded, he found himself kneeling on soft red earth beneath a vast crimson sky. The alien palace was gone, only fragments of crystal and gold scattered across the barren landscape. The air was still. Kieran turned to her. The chains were gone. Her hair floated weightless in the alien breeze. Her eyes no longer dim but radiant, alive. "You're free," he whispered. She looked down at her hands as if seeing them for the first time. "Freedom," she said softly, "feels heavier than chains." He frowned. "Did we destroy everything?" She smiled faintly. "No. You broke the cage. The worlds will heal slowly. Balance will return, not through imprisonment, but through choice." Kieran stood beside her, the sky rippling with newborn stars. "So what happens to us?" Her gaze lifted to the horizon, where the first sunrise in 100 years began to rise. "Now we live. You gave me that gift, human. You chose me when even gods would not." He looked at her, smiling despite the ache in his chest. "I didn't want riches anyway." Her laughter echoed softly, like wind across new worlds. She reached for his hand once more, warm and steady. "Then stay, Kieran. Walk this reborn world with me." He took her hand. Together they stepped forward into the dawn, 2 beings from broken worlds, now bound not by chains, but by the simple, impossible act of choice. Far above them, the stars burned brighter, as if remembering their names.